Hi guys, my name is Nicole and today I wanted to go over my 2022 favorite books. So I have a selection of about 10 to 12 books that I really enjoyed, and we're going to start with my favorite book of the year. Please, if you enjoyed the video at the end, give it a like, but without further ado, let's get into my first favorite book. And that is Vespertine by Margaret Rogerson. Anybody who knows me on Instagram or just in real life should have already guessed that this was going to be my favorite book. I think this book really solidified that Margaret Rogerson is in my top 3 favorite authors, maybe top 4, but definitely solidified it. And I'm gonna be honest, I think this is my favorite of Margaret Rogerson's books, which I think is such a shame because I feel like this one was the least hyped and I heard the least about it before publication. But this book follows a young nun who was orphaned when she was very young and was raised in this monastery. But tragedy befalls the monastery and almost everybody dies, and she ends up escaping and she has to go on an adventure. I really enjoyed where this book went, and we also have an amazing secondary main character. If you liked Silas from Sorcery of Thorns, he was like a demon companion to the main characters. I think you're really going to enjoy the companion character here. It is also a demon who has been trapped in a relic, and they kind of have to work together. I also really enjoyed this because I've never read a character quite like our main character here, and I really felt seen by her. She kind of struggled to understand people's emotions and understand how to talk to people, and I really liked that. And I really appreciated how the demon slowly befriended her, and he would remind her to eat and stuff because she would a lot of times forget to take care of herself. So I really enjoyed the dynamic between them, the friendship, and I really liked this story, so I really hope there's going to be a second one. It says on Goodreads there's supposed to be, but I haven't heard anything about it. But this definitely needs a sequel. The magic system was so fantastic and I really loved this book. Then my second favorite book of 2022 was The Song of the Marked, and kind of this series as a whole. Although I have not read the last 2 books, the 5th book I think did not come out yet, and the 4th one I have not started, but I read the first 3. Absolutely fell in love with this series. It's actually on Kindle Unlimited, and I read the first one and I was like, this is too good not to own, so I bought all of the series that is currently out on paperback, and I really am happy with it. So we follow this girl named Cassia, and she is with a group of people that do missions. They're kind of paid for hire swords. And then one day Cassia is dared by one of her team members to steal from this captain of the guard. However, she doesn't know who he is and how important he is, so when she steals something from him, he ends up going after her. And obviously, romance is going to ensue. I really enjoyed this one because of the world building and all of the gods. There's different tiers of gods and a lot of intricate magic, and our main character is at the centerfold of all of this, so I liked that a lot. Really good self-published fantasy, and I heard that it's actually picked up by an official publisher now, so they're going to be publishing the rest of the series, I believe, traditionally, and I'm really excited for the author. Yeah, this is a great fantasy romance series. If you're looking to pick it up, I would say get steamier as each book goes on. And then my third favorite book of the year, to nobody's surprise, was Starsight by Brandon Sanderson. So Brandon Sanderson, I figured, was going to be my favorite book, whichever of his I read of the year. However, Vespertine I read in November, and that completely just blew me away, and I absolutely loved it. So this one ended up getting pushed down. Same with Song of the Marked. I think I read that whole series in November and December. It just blew everything out of the water. But this one is my favorite sci-fi series of all time. I don't read a lot of sci-fi, but I think Brandon Sanderson does an amazing job with the different alien species she meets and just the world building. And this one has so much action. Really enjoy it. So this is the sequel to the first book, Skyward, and we are following Spenza, who is a fighter pilot. That's really all I'm going to say about this one because it is a sequel. Then next up, on a different vein of not fantasy, we have Dial A for Aunties. I love this book so much. I read books 1 and 2, and I really hope there's going to be more. There is a side plot of romance, but the main plot is a mystery / suspense / humor with this girl and her aunties. Basically, our main character, Madeline, accidentally kills somebody and her her three aunties and her mother all team up and try to like hide the body, and they end up having to hide the body at a wedding, and it's just really interesting. I love this one. It's so funny, and I really liked the aunties and the mother. It was probably my favorite part because they were so funny, and it really talks a lot about their like Asian heritage, and I really enjoyed it. It was just so good. I've never laughed out loud so much before in a book. I think I laughed the most in this one though. Sometimes it is just a little over the top, but in the best way. It's so hilarious. I would love to see this be made into a movie. The next, another Brandon Sanderson book, is The Well of Ascension, which is book 2 in the Mistborn series. Since this is a sequel, I won't really get into it, but it is a high fantasy, very politics, and very action heavy, and it's a very thick book. How many times will I say very in this video? Okay, and then next up I have Crossbones, which was one of the first books I read, and I read it actually for a video on this channel where I read some pirate books. This one was a lot of fun. I was really happy that I picked it up because I was not expecting to like it so much when I learned it was a Wattpad published book, but it was so much fun. I have the sequel, haven't read it yet. Hopefully I'll read it soon. I am a little nervous because that one's only like 200 pages compared to this one's a bit longer. So I hope it's interesting, but if you like tournaments and like competing, I think you'll enjoy this one because they are competing for the crown. And there's like 3 main characters, 3 point of views, and they're all competing and have like different teams in like a pirate ship and like their crew. So really enjoyed this one, super action packed and super fun. Next up, another romance. I have Book Lovers by Emily Henry. This is actually my first Emily Henry book I read, but I'm actually glad I started with this one because I really enjoyed it. Usually I feel like in romance it's opposites attract, but in this one I feel like they're very similar and everybody else is the opposite, and I just really liked that. So I feel like that's very realistic to meet someone that you just completely vibe with and you feel very similar to, and I really liked them like finding that out about each other. They are both very career driven and they love living in New York City. I believe it's New York City. And everyone else isn't like them, but I really like that they kind of just mesh well. But yeah, I really enjoyed this romance. It made me squeal a lot, and I'm glad that they were able to find their happy ending together. The next up we have a YA contemporary / romance, and that is I Kissed Shara Wheeler. Here we follow Chloe and 3 other people who kissed Shara before she disappeared. Shara is like the beauty queen of the town, and nobody knows why she just kissed them and ran off, so they kind of all team up and look for her. It's kind of like, is it Paper Towns by John Green, where the girl goes missing? Except way better because I didn't care for Paper Towns. But that is kind of a similar premise, and I really enjoyed all the characters. I felt like even the side characters were fleshed out very well. And it just felt like each person was extremely real, which I really appreciate in stories when they feel like real people I could have conversations with and like be a part of their friend group. So I think that's why I enjoyed this one so much. The next up we have The Winner's Crime. Really this entire series I read this year and should be on here, but I'm only gonna have the second book. I think the second one was my favorite because it was very like politics heavy. But basically we have a girl who is part of like the ruling class and this guy who is part of like the slaves in their system, and they end up kind of falling in love but not really, and it's just, I feel like perfect enemies to lovers because it is very much dragged out, and I feel like just because they have feelings for each other they don't throw away all of their principles and like stop caring about their family and everything, and I think it was very nuanced and I really enjoyed that. But yeah, it is a high fantasy series that I really love. Next up, another YA contemporary romance. We have If You Change Your Mind. I made I think 2 or 3 videos this summer trying to find my like perfect summer read, and I think this but won for the perfect summer read. I think I like this one the best. It just felt like a warm hug, and I felt like I really was living in this beach town. Okay, 3 more books left. So next we have Sophie and the Bone Song, which was one of the last books I read this year. It was perfect for winter. I feel like it had all the wintry cold vibes. It also talked about like wintry food, wintry fashion, being all like bundled up, and a lot of music. So here we follow Sophie, and she has trained her entire life to become her father's apprentice. However, on the day of the audition, this girl who's never played the lute before comes in and wins, and it kind of like ruins Sophie's entire life. So Sophie is determined to figure out how this girl won and like what type of magic she used so she can disqualify her. So it is an enemies to lovers, and I really enjoyed this one. It wasn't like the most high stakes, honestly. I kind of liked that because it just felt a little bit more relaxed, and I really had fun. Okay, then we have The Queen's Poisoner. I read the first 3 books in this series and absolutely loved them. I actually picked these up on audio, but I liked them so much I immediately ordered them. But we follow this character named Owen throughout his basically entire life up into adulthood. So the first book, we are when he is a child and he is sent to live at the king's palace, and he like kind of ends up making friends and like getting into the politics in the world and everything. And then the next 2 books follow like him as a teenager and then an adult. So really like this series. If you're looking for like a high fantasy, very politics heavy scheming book, I think you will enjoy this series. Okay, and the final book is The Great Hunt by Robert Jordan, and this is the 2nd book in the Wheel of Time series. I'm not really going to explain what this series is about because it's so popular, but really enjoyed this one and I am glad that I read it. I have to force myself to read this series though because it's always just so intimidating, but it's always like worth it, at least for the first 2 books I read. I always end up enjoying it so much. It's on my favorites of the year list, but it's just hard to force myself to read such a long and thick series. But I really enjoyed it and I hope to pick up books 3 and 4 this year. Yeah, those were all of my favorite books of the year. Comment down below what your favorite book of the year was, or if you had a couple. Or if you like had any of these as well on your favorites list. Thanks so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please don't be afraid to give it a like. I hope you have a great day or night wherever you are. Bye!